Standard 8249, relationship between square root and squares of a number to solve problems. If you are given square root of n and you need to get n by itself, well, the way to get rid of a square root there, the way to get rid of a square root is to square the problem. So I'm going to go ahead and square it, and when you square it, it rids the square root. So you would wind up with n, or what's inside that square root. They work against each other. Let's say you had n squared and you needed to get n alone. Well, in order to get n alone, the way to get rid of a square is to square root it, giving you n. Very similar to what you did kind of with Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. You needed to get a squared, b squared, or c squared alone, and the way you did that was a square root. That being said, in part A, it says, what are the solutions to the equation n squared equals 100? Well, the way to get rid of a square is to square root it. So what I do to one side, I need to do to the other. I now have n equals. Since we don't know what 100 is talking about, you have to write your answer as plus a negative 10. That's telling you that 10 and negative 10 are an answer. Reason why is because when you square the answer, 10 squared would give you 100. Negative 10 squared would give you 100. So both these are answers, 10 and negative 10. This one says an equation has negative 4 and 4 as its solutions. What is the equation? Well, you think about it. Obviously, you're working with square root. We had plus a negative 10. So basically, 10 times 10 gave us what was inside our square root here. So it's got to do the same thing. So negative 4, let's say you squared that, or you had 4 and you squared that. Well, that is going to give us 16. And that would be, the equation would be n squared equals 16. Why is it n squared equals 16? Because when you square root this, you now have n, and when you square root that side, you'd come up with negative 4 and 4 as possibilities. 2 says the area of a square is given by the formula a equals s squared. Well, it's a square, so a represents area, s is talking about a side length. We know the side lengths are the same, so that's why we square them. We need to find what is the side length of a square with an area of 400 inches. So I'm going to go ahead. Sometimes it helps if you draw a diagram. Here's my square. Well, we know that this side times this side is going to give you the area, which is 400 square units. We need to figure out, well, what is the area of a side length? Well, we know that the area formula is a equals s squared. Plug in what you know. We know the area. Area is 400 equals s squared. We need to get s alone to figure out one side length. The way to do that, square root. Square root. When you square root both sides, you now have s. Since this is talking about a side length, you're not going to put plus a negative here. Why are you not going to put plus a negative? Because you cannot have a negative side length. So our only option here is 20 for the side length, which would be option A. Example 8, the length of a radius of a circle is approximately root 20 inches. Using the following approximation, area equals 3 times r squared, where r is the length of the radius of the circle. Which of the following is closest to the area of the circle? So I'm going to take that equation that they have and write that in, and then substitute in values I know. Here's the equation that we have. The value that we know, well, we're going to try to figure out what is the closest area of the circle. So that's what we're figuring out is A. We must know r, and r is given right here. That is the root 20. So in for r, I'm going to go ahead and put root 20 down, and then I need to bring down my square. Well, when you square that, as mentioned before, that gets rid of a square root. A square gets rid of a square root. So we have a equals 3 times, when I square this, the square root is gone, the square root is gone, and the square. So I'm going to bring down 20. Squaring gets rid of the square root. So we have area equals 3 times 20, which would give me 60 square units. So that would be option B. This will conclude Standard 8249.